keep it simple, these trifles I handed out are probably the most informational piece of literature we have on the whole lot. Because it doesn't go way over your head with technology and mumbo-jumbo and scientific analogies, and people get it. It's an easy understanding. But when I go into hydro stores and I do these small gatherings, you know, here's the only reason why anybody here that's growing would have an interest in this bottle, which of course is our flagship bottle, Photosynthesis Plus. And the questions that come up a lot about Photosynthesis Plus is, well, what's Photo C, what's Photo O? It's the Department of Ag regulation for different states that have to have that labeling. O for Oregon, C for California. The nice thing about Washington, where you guys are, is two of our other products, vitamins and aminos, and all-in-one, can be openly sold up here, but they cannot in neither California or Oregon. Again, all because of wording and labeling. But anyways, with that being said, Photosynthesis Plus. What's the big deal about it? Why would you be interested in it? First off, the thing that we tell hydro stores is we're not coming in to replace any of your products that you have. All the products you have in here are amazing to someone for some reason because they buy them and you have them on the shelf. What our product does, or doesn't do, is it can go all by itself with a nice microbe soil for the green organic growing person, or it can assist in other nutrients, other fertilizers, other soils very effectively, as much as a 40% increase in uptake with nutrients, fertilizers, whatever you're feeding your girls with. But how that works is, in that bottle, we have a consortium of 32 different bacteria. The majority of them are vegetative, which are very aggressive bacteria. There's a couple bacillus, spore-based bacteria, and if you're aware, bacillus bacteria, spore-based in particular, can take anywhere from 3 hours to 3 days to totally put their full value out as far as what they're designed to do. That's fine, that's good, we need them for different breakdowns in the soils and the whole photosynthetic bacteria triangle, if you will. But vegetative bacteria is the main source in this bottle. It's an aggressive bacteria. It's so aggressive in the sense that we are the only product in the industry today, unless somebody else knows of another product, to where within 20 to 40 minutes after application with our product, be it if it's a foliar feed or a soil drench, we are 100% absorbed into that plant system. 40 minutes maximum. Quick uptake. The other nice thing about this,
praying. Yeah, praying that leaves like this.
And you know, I had an interesting question. Thanks for bringing that up. I had a question on Facebook last week. It was on Doctors of Cannabis, the probiotics end. Said, why do these leaves go up? Is that natural? They almost look like they have a claw. What's going on there? And I ranted with some humorous remark, and then I left my number at the end if they wanted to talk more. But the reason for that being is like you and I taking vitamins, treating our bodies right, appropriately, kind of like Randy was talking about soil biodynamics. The happier you and I are, the better we function, the better we produce in a daily life. The plant is no different. It's a very gentle living organism, be it if it's your rose at home, the vegetable in the garden, or our living girls in the cannabis world. The more they're wooed and taken care of naturally, of course the response is through the roof if everything is done right.
Amen.
So there's no magic with this. You know, we're not, like a fertilizer that's putting things on life support, or a miracle grow that's being introduced to the plant and it grows 5 feet and people say how amazing that was to feed the plant. We're doing everything completely naturally. But with that being said, our product being used in conjunction with other products, like we talked about nutrients or even fertilizers, people are now, our growers, are able to reduce those other nutrients and fertilizers by literally 40%. And the reason for that being is because of the bacteria workmanship that's in this bottle that I've been describing to you, is where your plant, no matter what medium it's growing in, be it if it's rock wool, cocoa core, soil-based, compost, whatever. 70% of its energy is going into breaking down those natural organics around it in order to receive its nutrients to be fed, as well as the whole photosynthesis process as far as light. Our bacteria is doing 90% of that work for the plant now. And remember, the plant was taking 70% of its energy to break down all those natural organics just to receive what it needs to. So with that being said, if you put a bacteria or introduce something beyond natural to that plant to not do the work for the plant, the reason why we're getting success and people are really dialing into our product, and I know I have some very good growers here that can attest to that, is because they're seeing great results with their plants. And the reason being is we're doing it naturally. We're doing it effectively. And the reason you're able to reduce your other nutrients and fertilizers, if that's what you're using on your plants, by 40% is because this bacteria is going into the plant systemically and doing what it's designed to do. And the plant's responding accordingly. So you have a healthier plant, you have a better producing plant, the smell, the flavor, and again, vegetables, cannabis, it doesn't matter, even your roses. Everything is performing on a high octane level. You know, it's almost like it's got a probiotic rush. It's like, oh my God, I'm not used to this, but everything's doing so good, and I'm expanding, I'm growing, and life is great. You know, it's again just like whatever you and I are taking, the plant is receiving it the same way, but we're doing it with the benefits of bacteria. Now the other thing about this is, again, I said it's not going to compete with anything that you're already using in your grow. And the other beautiful thing behind this is you can't overdose with it. I mean, you can't kill your plant or scorch it with, you know, using too much of this as a foliar. But why would you? The point of that being, it's a very high concentrated form of a nutrient additive where you don't need that much to see great results. But with that being said, I talked about foliar, I talked about soil drench. I'm going to go into left field real quick so I don't forget this. Our Nourish, there again is that labeling, the Nourish C, Nourish L, which is our national label. This bottle here is the only bottle in our entire line that you would never want to foliar feed with because it would burn your leaves. And here's the reason for it. You know, this is 72 elements of earth humates. It's mined 2 miles deep in a linden bog in Georgia. It's probably 2 million years old. Greenland. So this is mined 2 miles deep out of the ground. Very water soluble. But like a lot of humic that you see in the industry today, leonardite, coal-based material, we have 0 coal-based additives in our product. So we're very water soluble as far as breaking down versus coal-based material, not so much. But with that being said, the reason you never want to foliar feed with that is because it is very concentrated, as I just told you. Yes?
Why on the Photo Plus you say your first feeding, feed at like 90 milliliters for 5 gallons and then you tune back to 60, 30, 60?
Well, and here's a good point about the feeding chart. The feeding chart is probably the conversation that comes up the very most. And all of the growers have a different regimen for different reasons, for good reasons, depending on the strain, the type of plant, and how the response is. And I mean, I know you guys can attest to, depending on what you're growing or what the plant is, you probably see different responses by the amount that you feed.
I think we all wrote our own book mostly.
Absolutely.
If you go out there and ask between all of us professional growers, we're often asking each other, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? All of us wrote our own book.
And
you know what I mean?
And you know, today, I don't think I've ever, and you're right, I don't think I've ever found anyone that has the same exact recipe.
Well, and I think when it was designed, I don't think it was necessarily designed with marijuana plants necessarily in mind. I think it was maybe a little more designed for organic gardening and breaking down the soils and replenishing the soils.
Well, let me bring out another point. This was designed under a name you guys may be familiar with out of California called Quantum, or Quantum XL. Quantum is produced by our factory. Quantum has been out there for 12 years. It's strictly used in the agricultural market. Heinz tomatoes, which we've had for 5 years. Florida citrus groves, 1.5 million acres. The quantum is what our photosynthesis is, but only with less bacteria in it. So what that means is there's more beneficials in this bottle that we're selling on the retail side than what quantum has introduced on the ag side. So you're right. Originally that feeding chart, that schedule, was really with the soybeans, the fruits, the vegetables.
Large
And this is, yeah. Because as I speak to the upper echelon, even back at Ecological, and we have these conversations quite often, even to this day, you know, they're searching, well, I don't know, a world, I think, not even they, in their mind, have a dialed-in chart of how this works in the cannabis industry. You guys do.
We're going to make one.
And a lot of our stuff that you've seen that I share on Facebook or even that comes out, a lot of that is designed or comes from you, the growers. Because I, along with other people across the country that get the feedback, are getting more and more dialed in to really what works, how it works, and how much of that works. But again, being that concentrated as it is, you don't need to overly abuse it. A little goes a very long, long way. Now the other disclaimer I'll throw out there is that rotten egg, that putrid smell. Oh my gosh. It's processed under large vat clear containers for a period of 6 days under grow lights. I think most of you have already been told that. Well, over that 6 days, with this consortium of 32 bacteria that are in this bottle, which that's why it makes it difficult for other people to patent this product, because it's hard for them to dial in exactly what those 32 bacteria are. But why this works so well, why it's in a clear bottle, is 2 of those strains of bacteria, and you'll see it in the front of your catalog, are photosynthetic strains. And you could Google and break down the definition of both of those photosynthetic bacteria that we'll get, the qualities behind them, and why they're in this bottle. And again, the purple sheen, of course, is that sunlight illumination, or even on a shelf in a dark corner, depending on what the lighter side of the bottle is, you're always going to see that purple sheen occur on the face of it. And what it is the hydrogen sulfides that have been produced under those grow lights for the period of 6 days as this bacteria is being conformed together to not only be the anesthesia but the preservative to maintain this bacteria. So those are the 4 things. So if you have a filtered system or you're using our dechlorinator, which this treats about 1,800 gallons of water, believe it or not, guys. And just a very small amount, 5 milliliters to 10 gallons, your water is totally neutral in 7 minutes if you don't have a filter system. But if you do have a filter system or reverse osmosis, as most of you do, then you're fine. You know, you're not burning up any of those microbes. Microbe Life also puts out the soy-based organic cleaner for your reservoir, your grow room, or whatever you're cleaning, and you don't want any of those nasty chemicals, agents like that. This is a really nice resource, the soy-based cleaner. And that actually we came out with for our ponds about 15 years ago, and just relabeled it. So the flagship, again, nuts and bolts, and I go into so many stores around the Northwest, and sometimes the only bottle I see when I go into the store is Photosynthesis Plus. Most of them don't know why they have it there, they just know it works, and everybody asks them about it. That's why it's on the shelf until I go in and kind of give them the nuts and bolts and explain. And really want to and emphasize bringing in the rest of the family. So, the Nerdishell, as I went over, is the Earth Humates, which is really the side-by-side with the photo that so many growers like to use. The other nice little nugget we have here is, I know a lot of you guys do transplants, clones, cuttings, use Clone-X, other good gels that work great for cuttings and transplants, or root dip. And I have a lot of growers that swear by this. One guy that I really, really love, and I apologize for coming late, my guy Jason Brooks, we just put in a mega grow out here, 800,000 square feet of grow space when everything's up and running. He swears by the root dip for his cuttings, his clones, the root enhancement. He says there's nothing like it. And he uses that religiously. And so in typical grow, after 5 weeks, you don't need this anymore. Although my buddy Tiny, King Green, he says he'll foliar it right up to flush, and that's fine, because you're still getting great results. You know, you still have strains of the photosynthesis in all of these products, except for the all-in-one. So you're getting benefits regardless. But for most people, after 5 weeks, you know, you've been through your germination, you've done with your cuttings, you have a good root mass going, the root tip has done its job, and it's kind of bye-bye to the next grow. Now, where it gets complicated or starts changing up, and I know the gears are already running in most of the ML guys' head here that are going with it, on how they use and when they shut it down, is when you get into these three now. Now when we get into the vegetable fruit, we're with the photo, we're into 5-6 weeks of growing. This is where everybody goes left and right in how they use it, or what they believe the best way to use it is. So what I can tell you as a sales rep, just as a rule of thumb, and it doesn't mean that this is the actual God-spoken truth, is when you get into your flower set and your buds have formed, typically a lot of growers love this, the vegetable fruit enhancer. And this is why this stands out differently from all the other products, the vegetable fruit enhancer. I'll touch on that for a moment. This ideally is the main focus, and you say, well, vegetable fruit, why does it say bud and flower? Well, if we're talking about the egg growers, vegetable fruit, that's what initially it was designed for, and then we went to the garden centers. This is what you use for your tomatoes and everything else. But with that being said, with your flower and bud set, growers will dose up double amount with this when they're getting into budding and flowering. And they claim it makes a much bigger difference in the bud density and size. It's because of this element that we're growing. I can share with you one little example. Little Scotty Morris, who lives here north of town. He had a big grow going. We did a test study on 3 grows of the strain you guys are familiar with, Northern Lights. You're familiar with how big of the buds are that grow on that. So we did this 4 times in the grow with Northern Lights. The first 2 times, we went with everything and no vegetable fruit enhancer. Because I had to prove this somewhat for myself, because I'm selling this stuff, I live and breathe this stuff like I do the Malibu. I don't want to be some shoe salesman that's full of BS. I want to know how this lives, how this reacts, what it does. And you guys preach that and really, really feed me well with that. But with that being said, so we did the test, 2 runs with this not at all, and the next 2 runs, we did the vegetable fruit enhancer. The first time we went with 5 milliliters to gallon. The second time we went with 10 milliliters to gallon. And we cut off 1 week before flush. Well, in both of those studies, the first one where we went with 5 mil, and the second one with 10 mil, the buds were at least 30% larger than the first 2 drugs when we used it not at all. And then the last time when we dosed up even 5 millimeters more, the buds were just very large. And for that plant, typically you don't have these big colas and large buds, is what I'm told with that particular strain. So I've seen good results. Other growers that have kind of tweaked it and used it a little differently and will cut off much more quickly than going all the way to flush with it for their own reasons, have also said they've had great results. But I told you that there's something different about this than all the other products, and here's what's different. But this, unlike all the other additives we have there, has 5 more strains of bacteria. 4 of those strains are bacillus type. I told you how they're kind of slow releasing. Yes?
I'm going to ask you something. You said that, you know, you was talking about how big the buds got after these 10 mils now. I noticed from my buds being real big and things of that nature, like they fresh swipes and some of them I have to cut some of the tops off.
Okay.
So did you notice any of that?
No, but when I point to these guys is because they would probably be
Talking
better
about like
versed on
foxtail
that than
and
I.
stuff, or
Frustritis in the buds where it's starting to rot because it got too big from the inside out because it's so big and hard and nuggy.
I would check your humidity in your room.
Well, we had no issue.
I was just asking, did you have issues?
No.
No, I would check your humidity room and maybe up the air ventilation that's pulling out of it, and that more of the ventilation that's pulling out of it usually pull and draw more air out of the room, and then you can also lower the temperature. If it get too warm, warm air holds a lot of moisture in the air, and that can do it with more extra moisture floating around in your room. You're trapping the nugget. start rotting.
Another thing that's pretty interesting is if you do what this gentleman was talking about, increasing the biodiversity for your top dress.
Yes, sir.
One thing that I've noticed is less susceptibility. One thing that I'm playing around with a lot is there's a something you can't get at a gardening shop is like full plant powders. I recommend a shop just north of Fremont in Ballard called Dragonfly. She's walked me through how to make my own essential oil, pesticides or preventatives, all the way to mixtures of like horsetail powder, nettle powder, pretty much recreating what booze does for us already. But you know, when you want to be a scientist, you kind of gotta play.
You gotta go do the thing. You gotta,
And I recommend going there and asking, picking her brain. Some of the things.
An organ with dragonfly?
No, not dragonfly earth medicine.
Oh.
It's called it's either dragonfly or dandelion. Is it dandelion, Ryan? Do you know? Okay, I believe it's dragonfly or dandelion.
It's in There's another book you can get too that's pretty good called Microbe. Yeah, I checked into it. Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows about that, you know. But you know, that's your best defense basically against a lot of that rot. Once you start getting rot, it's caused by mold, bacteria, and then you get the breakdown inside the plant. And, you know, you start to have things that actually are growing and eating the plant out from the inside out. You know what I mean?
Are you using CO2?
Oh yeah.
CO2 increases fungal growth. Fungus loves CO2. One of the things that you also want to look for, obviously genetics will play a huge role into that. Then the top it'll increase. But what we started doing is major benefits is defoliating all the major families from basically right where you're in the plant, go down. When you start losing fair density of light, just take everything off down below as far as fingers, leaving all your other stuff. That allows a massive flow up.
Yeah.
Just keep that going.
Especially if you're in like a scrog or something where it's all bunched together and the leaves are kind of wanting to stack or sit on top of each other. They try to breathe all that mist out, you know what I mean? As they're breathing on it. It's like your breath being on it. Yeah,
You gotta
definitely.
increase your airflow below.
Yeah.
So if you can do that.
A couple more fans too, you know, might help. You know, maybe even 1 or 2 circular fans. Just add one, and then maybe add a, you know, a little more ventilation. You know, keep the temperature down.
It was called Dandelion Botanical Company.
How you doing, man? Nice to meet you. Hell yeah.
It's great. It's a great additional information.
You touched right on.
I get what you going for after before I
So that's great. I mean, that opens up good conversation for a good reason.
That's what I did.
And a valid point. Like, your buds are burst and you have this issue, what's going on?
And
Not that I know, but certainly, you know, just talking to the growers.
you know, good old
They're dialed
CK
in.
and all that stuff.
Lastly, so anyway, this is special. It is well loved next to Sodo. The last thing that's really, like, I guess it shouldn't surprise me, but it is, we're basically using deficiency with vitamins and aminos. And you want a great additive, which we've been really, we had a lot of increased sales this year. People that are trying it and they get hooked on it because they're vitamins and aminos. And again, this one can't be sold in Oregon or California, but it is up here in Washington. And people are using this all the way up to their flush. Are cutting off a week or 2 prior as well, right, with the regimen of the other 4 products. So, with that, it is 6. I think I about covered it all. Like I said, you guys know so much more than me, especially you full-time microbe growers, which educate me, but, you know, from an overall view, that's pretty accurate and on point. Would you guys agree with how that works? You know, that's kind of how it breaks down, guys. But I appreciate you all coming today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.